Greetings, mortals, and welcome back to Ark Talks Out of His Ass.
So today I have a couple of things on my mind that I want to get off my chest before we start up the stream. And I'm not going to talk about how Trump came into office because I think that that's something that is it's going to be a difficult video to approach. It deals with um, some issues that are very difficult to discuss. And I'll need to think about how I want to approach that. But I'm going to just talk about for a moment who Donald Trump is not, because we don't. Nobody really knows who Donald Trump is. At least nobody in the public sphere actually knows anything about Donald Trump. And that might seem like a surprise because he's been in the public view for so long. But Donald Trump is very similar in many ways to a person like Sacha Baron Cohen. And I am probably completely screwing up his name, but Sacha Baron Cohen is an actor who is a method actor who is always in character in public when he is playing a character for a movie or something, right? So for the entire promotion of the movie, he will be in character for that character. He completely takes on their role. Donald Trump is fundamentally a image manager for the Trump brand. That is his fundamental job. All he does is make sure that people associate Trump, the word Trump, with wealth, with gold, and with success. Because what that does is it makes it so that anything that he puts his name on, which other people will basically pay him to put his name on things, right? So they give him a percentage of the potential profits, a percentage of the business, basically, just for putting his name on something. He doesn't have to invest money of his own in order to get REAP returns. He just has to invest his name. Okay? And as long as he is able to manage his name and make it so that it is associated with success, it will be profitable. Okay? Now, the individual businesses can succeed or fail. It doesn't matter because he's not investing any of his own assets into it. Other people are investing their assets, and if they get screwed, then it sucks to be them, right? So he's fundamentally an image manager, right? That's all he does. And an image manager is someone who lies all the time. An image manager is someone whose professional job it is to make sure that people think a given way about something. So Donald Trump's image that he is trying to present is power, wealth, influence, braggatry, whatever, whatever. All the things that you associate with Donald Trump as a person are just a brand. That is his brand. And we do not know. If you listen to him talk, he's constantly contradicting himself. He's constantly like he cannot possibly hold all of these positions simultaneously because they're all mutually exclusive with each other, right? So who is he? We don't really know. So one of the things that we do know is that he's not the man that people voted for. The people who voted him into office, they come into basically a couple of categories broadly. The first category is people who just think that the system needs to be shaken up, period. That the system itself is so broken that they will vote for anyone who is outside that system. And there's some legitimacy in that belief. I have concerns about their particular choice for person outside the system, but okay, I can see your opinion there. So there's those people, and they are getting what they want, maybe, and maybe not. So we'll see whether they get what they want because he may or may not actually influence the system at all, which I'll get into later when I talk about what a Trump presidency will possibly mean in terms of his actual policy. There's potential social unrest issues that are outside of his actual power to influence, but we'll get into that later. Now, the other brand of Trump supporter is someone who actually believes that Trump agrees with what with their positions because he said that he agreed with their position at some point. And these people are going to be sorely disappointed. Donald Trump is not the person who ran for president. The person who ran for president was a fictional character that Donald Trump created to run for president. And I would have thought that that would be really obvious to pretty much anyone who's watching, but pretty much everyone acts as if Donald Trump is telling the truth when he says things. Whether he's saying that he's going to build a border wall with Mexico, or that, he hates Muslims, or that he hates Mexicans, or that, like, anything that you have seen him say is exclusively him playing to the Republican base. He is playing the Republican base like a fiddle. And politicians lie generally, right? Like they're dishonest about their beliefs, but they're not usually dishonest about their policies. And they're not dishonest about their policies because a politician has a vested interest in sort of a stable relationship with the voting public and with their colleagues in Congress, the Senate, or, whoever. They have a vested interest, and because of that vested interest, they end up collating into parties where they watch each other's backs and things like that. Now, in my previous video, I mentioned that Donald Trump is not a Republican, and in addition to not being a Republican, he has burned all of those bridges. He has a couple of vassal Republicans who are basically people who owe him money. Okay, where he's giving them money to support him. So he has a couple of people like that who do not like him, do not necessarily respect him, but who are, at his beck and call. Yes, I'm going to stand behind you, and yes, you're going to insult me the entire time, and yes, I'm going to just tolerate it. Right? Okay. Chris Christie is who I'm talking about, the poor bastard. I don't know very much about the guy, but it's hard to see him on TV and not feel bad for him. So he doesn't have a political party, and he doesn't really have a long-term political agenda. He doesn't have a political career. He doesn't have favors that have been bought and sold. He has no vested interest in doing anything that he has said he's going to do, because he doesn't have to be honest, because if he gets the presidency, he has won the highest position that the world has to, or, well, pretty much that the world has to offer. But he has the highest position that the electorate can give him. Does he need it for another 4 years? Why would he care? He got it for the first 4 years. He's proven his point, and he can do whatever he wants to do for this 4 years. Why would he, tone himself down so that he gets another 4 years? This isn't his primary gig. It's not. This is not the penultimate of his ambitions. This is a side venture for him. So Donald Trump has no vested interest in actually doing any of the shit that he said he was going to do, because it doesn't matter whether the voting public would ever vote for him again, and it doesn't matter how much his colleagues care about him, because as soon as he finishes his term, these people aren't his colleagues anymore. And the voting public has no influence on him once he gets out of office either. That's not how this, because again, he's not a politician by trade. So he has no vested interest in doing any of the shit that he says, which means that he has no vested interest before the election in telling the truth about anything. He's just going to say whatever comes to his head, and, he's going to play his character to the fullest. So that means that there's a few different options for what a Trump presidency can mean. Because of the fact that he is such a liar, and we don't really know. And I don't mean that in a negative way. That might seem strange for me to say, that I don't mean that in a negative way, but he is fundamentally a brand and image manager. Lying is his profession. He is a professional liar. It's not bad for him to be a liar. That's just what he does for a living. Okay? It's like calling an actor evil because they're constantly lying on camera. Donald Trump is a professional liar. So, and as a result, we don't really know what he's going to do. But he can do one of a few things. So the first thing that he could do is it could be that he is legitimately crazy. And if he is legitimately crazy, it is going to be very, very bad for the entire world, not just for America. It's going to be very bad for the world if he is anywhere near as crazy as he has been pretending to be for the last 12 months. And that's why if you watch any of the like late night talk shows or anyone who was live when he won, all of those people looked like they had been shot or that they had just found out that, their mother died backstage. And it's because if Donald Trump is anything like the person that these people voted for, um, the world's about to end. Because the person these people voted for is a fucking nutcase. So if he's anything like that, nuclear winter is a distinct possibility and is in fact a probability. That said, that's not terribly likely, and I'm very happy to say that because Donald Trump is such a liar. I don't think he believes I don't think he believes 1% of the shit that he said on the campaign trail. I think that generally speaking, he's probably just a pragmatic businessman who he's not a genius. He might pretend to be a genius, but again, that's his brand. His brand is to pretend to be a genius. I don't even know that he thinks he's a genius. He might not. He has a brand and he's got to manage the brand. So, at any rate, he's probably just a pragmatic businessman, which leaves us two alternative options to him actually being crazy. The first is that he could actually be disruptive. He could be sensibly disruptive in a way that no politician can be because of the fact that he has no ties in Congress, no ties in the Senate. He has absolutely nobody that he has to give a shit about. He does not need to care about just shitting on his entire voting base. He doesn't have to care about any of that, right? Because nobody has any power over him. He doesn't have to worry about re-election because why would he care about re-election, right? Being president is not the most profitable thing he can be doing with his time. It's just not. He has better things to do with his time from a personal standpoint, from a personal gain standpoint. So the voting populace has no power over him, and his colleagues have no power over him. So he has the ability to use the veto in extremely aggressive ways that have never been done before, and to basically just take that office and push it to the very limits of what it can do. And that's why if he's crazy, it's so fucking dangerous. Is because that is a very powerful office now. They've been continuously upping the power of the presidency for the last 15, 20 years. So since the presidency is now as strong as it's ever been. So we'll see how far he can push it if he decides to push it. And if he's not a crazy person, that will be extremely disruptive, either to be basically he can either use it to just completely make himself richer and shit on everyone else if he so pleases. And if he does that, and while just laughing his way to the bank because he doesn't care about public opinion, right? All he cares about is what's legal for him to do right now. That's all that matters. Every other politician has to care about the consequences of their actions politically. He doesn't have political consequences. So all he cares about is the actual legality of his behavior. So he could completely fuck everyone else and make himself as rich as possible. Or he could, if he actually gives a shit about the American people, he could do some really massive and good things and disrupt politics in a really positive way. And either of those two things, as long as he's not actually insane, are actually good for America. Because if we have a disrupting influence in American politics, and it's very clear just how fucking crazy and corrupt the whole system is, even if this one presidential term turns out to be a total shit show because he's just feeding himself and screwing everyone else, it's only 4 years. And then there's going to be someone new in office. So it's fine. That's fundamentally short term so long as he isn't crazy. And then there's the other option, which is probably the most likely option, unfortunately, because I'd love for a non-crazy activist Trump in office. I think that would be really cool and interesting to watch. It would be very disruptive and possibly in a positive way. The other option is that he's just going to not be president. And this is probably the most likely option. I'd give at least 50% odds just to the option of him basically doing nothing. So just him getting into office, making a few quick decisions on things that he wants to do, and then doing as little as humanly possible while continuing to do his other more profitable work. Because being president is, again, not the most profitable thing he can be doing with his time. He has other shit to do. So he he might be president in name only. And this is the most boring, but also the most likely option, is that the only honest thing about what Trump's saying is when, he was asking Mike Pence if he wanted to be the most powerful vice president in history, because you'll be in charge of foreign and domestic policy. Um, so we'll see. And I'm hoping for a sane Trump, either that he does nothing or that he does stuff that's disruptive and disrupts politics in a positive way. But we'll just have to see. But the one thing that, a lot of people are very scared right now because the person who was just elected was Hitler. And we have gotten lucky in that the Hitler that was just elected is a fictional character. Donald Trump has nothing in common with the character that he just portrayed or with, like, the absolute crazy insanity of what the implications of the kinds of things that he's saying. Talking about throwing his political rivals in jail, talking about deporting all the Muslims and the Mexicans. I mean, the kinds of things that he said were horrific, but all of it was in character. So it's possible that he actually believes some of that, but my guess is that he believes virtually none of it. So thank you everyone for watching. The world is probably not going to end. You're probably just going to see a guy who, doesn't do much of anything. And if you do see him do stuff, it's probably going to be more rational, sensible stuff, because the guy fundamentally is a businessman. So he's at least going to have rational stuff behind what he does, probably. So we'll see. So thank you everyone for watching. And as long as nuclear winter doesn't strike us, because I'm wrong on my guesses about Donald Trump, I'll see you guys next time.